This all started with one simple question, and one lie that almost buried me. When the doctor asked about the bruises on my face, my daughter answered for me. She smiled and said I was just clumsy. Later, when the nurse came back alone, I slipped a folded note into her hand. The bruise around my eye had changed overnight. It went from red to deep purple. That morning, I watched my daughter, Emily, stand in front of the hallway mirror like she was getting ready for a performance. She wore a camel coat and an ivory blouse. Her hair was pulled back just loose enough to look natural. She smoothed the coat with both hands and looked at herself with quiet satisfaction, like someone who had decided she was ready. Then she turned and smiled at me. "Ready, Mom? We don't want to be late." I had already been sitting in the kitchen for 40 minutes, dressed, waiting. I learned early that being ready before she was the safest thing I could do. My coat was on, my hands rested in my lap. The bruise on my cheek stood out clearly in the winter light. There was no hiding it. Emily wheeled me out to the car. That had been her decision 3 months earlier. My legs are fine. For 11 years I walked 4 blocks to the library every Tuesday. Rain, cold, it didn't matter. But Emily decided I needed the chair. And once she decided something, it slowly became part of my life before I even realized it was happening. The doctor we saw was Dr. Farid Ansari. I remember the plaque. 38 years old, 12 years in practice. He looked at his chart, then at my face. The way he studied me told me he was doing 2 things at once. He was reading the injury and reading the room. "Mrs. Hayes, can you tell me what happened here?" I opened my mouth. Emily's hand settled on my shoulder, warm, controlled, practiced. "She loses her balance all the time," she said with a soft smile. "I keep telling her not to walk alone, but you know how independent she is." She even laughed a little. I stayed quiet. At 71, I had learned that silence was the only thing that didn't cost me anything. Before I tell you what I became, I need to tell you who I was. My name is Margaret Hayes. I was born in 1953 in Albany, New York. My father was a pharmacist. My mother was a librarian. I graduated from the University at Albany in 1975 with a degree in English literature and a minor in French. I taught high school English for 9 years. I raised 2 children. I helped my husband build a furniture import business. We paid off our mortgage in 1998. We sent both kids to college without debt. We traveled to Portugal for our 30th anniversary. My husband, Thomas Hayes, was the kind of man who left notes in the kitchen before work. The kind who remembered not just birthdays, but the small things people never say out loud. He died on a Tuesday in September, quietly, in his sleep. His heart had been failing for 2 years, but he managed it with medication and stubbornness. He had too much left to do. I wasn't ready. No one ever is. Our son, Jason, lives in Portland with his wife and kids. He's a good man. Busy life, different time zone. After Thomas died, he called often, then less often, then once a week. That's how people handle grief from far away. Our daughter Emily is 44. She lives 40 minutes away. 8 days after the funeral, she showed up with 2 suitcases and a speech about how she couldn't let me be alone. I was grieving. I was grateful. And I was foolish. Not foolish in a way that deserves blame. Just the kind of foolish that happens when you spend decades trusting the people you love, and then lose everything at once. I believed her. Within 2 weeks, she took over my medications. She loved systems. Everything was organized, timed, color-coded. She made charts. She moved my prescriptions to mail delivery. She handled the refills. I told myself it was helpful. Within 3 weeks, my phone was gone. She said it was for my safety, said I might fall for scams. She gave me a new phone, a simpler one. The new phone had only a few contacts: Emily, her husband Ryan, Jason, the pharmacy. One number was missing, Michael Grant. I noticed. I told myself I was imagining things. Thomas had made me memorize Michael's number 6 years earlier. One Sunday in the kitchen, he said, "Just in case, Margaret." His voice was calm, but serious. I repeated that number in my head every night after my phone disappeared, like a prayer. Rosa Medina had worked for us for 20 years. She came twice a week. She knew everything about the house. She knew how Thomas liked his tea. She always showed me pictures of her granddaughter. Emily fired her while I was asleep. When I asked, she said it wasn't necessary anymore. Said unfamiliar people could confuse me. Rosa wasn't unfamiliar. Emily smiled. "I'm just trying to take care of you, Mom." Her voice had a tone, warm on the surface, something else underneath. At first, I blamed grief, stress. By the 15th time I heard it, I stopped explaining it. My friends stopped calling around week 4, not all at once, one by one. Barbara called twice, then stopped. Emily told her I needed quiet, that I got confused on long calls, confused. I read 3 books a month. I do crosswords every morning. I could recite Thomas's anniversary letter from memory, but Emily was telling people I was fading. By week 6, I understood she was building something around me. Isolation, control, a story. Then came the papers. She laid them out on the kitchen table. Coffee, gentle tone. "Just estate planning, Mom. Totally standard." I looked at them. I wasn't naive. Thomas made sure of that. For 40 years, we handled finances together. I knew what I was looking at. I signed 4 documents before I realized what they were. They were designed to be skimmed. The 5th one, I read properly. It was a deed transfer for my house. I put the pen down. "I'm not signing this, Emily." Something shifted in her eyes. "It's just a formality," she said. "I know what it is. I'm not signing it." 3 days later, she pushed me into the kitchen counter. It happened fast. We argued about my glasses. Then her hands on my shoulders. A hard push. I slammed into the edge of the counter. The pain was sharp. I couldn't breathe. In my own kitchen. Afterward, she cried. Held my hands. Said she was sorry. Said she was tired. Said she loved me. I told her it was okay. But I knew the truth. The rules had changed. 3 weeks later, I tried to call Jason. I found the phone hidden in a cabinet. It rang once. Emily walked in and calmly took it from me. "You don't need to bother him." She grabbed my arm, walked me into the hallway. She didn't avoid the door frame. Ryan stood there watching. He said nothing, did nothing. And that's when I understood everything. I followed the rules after that. Eat when told, sleep when told, don't argue. Don't reach for the phone, don't use words like hurt. And every night I repeated that number, like Thomas could hear me. I waited 3 weeks. I studied her patterns, her schedule. I found a pen behind the radiator. It took 2 weeks. I hid it in my cardigan. One morning she left her purse open. That never happened. I moved slowly. I found a receipt, turned it over, wrote Michael's number from memory, folded it, hid it in my sleeve, and waited. 5 days. At the clinic, the nurse came in. Jessica. She checked my blood pressure. Emily was distracted. Jessica's hand passed near my wrist. I pressed the note into her palm. She didn't react. Then she looked at me. "Do you feel safe at home?" I said, "No." Everything after that came in pieces. A woman from Adult Protective Services, Patricia. She sat beside me, told me to start wherever felt right. So I did. I told her everything. Michael Grant arrived 41 minutes later. He had already made calls. The bank flagged suspicious transactions. Money had been moved, accounts changed. Documents I signed gave Emily power over my finances. My medications had been altered. Not to help me, but to make me seem confused. Rosa gave a statement. The nurse documented my injuries. At 2:17 p.m., the police arrived. Emily was still in the waiting room, filling out forms, smiling, acting like the perfect daughter. She thought she had everything under control. She forgot about one thing, a pen behind a radiator. She was detained that day, not arrested yet. But it started. Protective orders were filed, accounts frozen. The investigation took 4 months. Emily and Ryan were charged. Financial exploitation, abuse, fraud. Ryan was charged for doing nothing, because watching is not the same as being innocent. The lawyer who prepared the documents was investigated too. I went home. Emily wasn't allowed back. Rosa came to visit, not to work, just to sit with me. We drank tea. Jason came in February. Stayed 10 days. He cried. I let him. He needed to. I told him what Thomas would have said. You do what you can with what you know. In April, I walked to the library again. Not because it was Tuesday, because I could. I wore my coat. My glasses, slightly bent now. I fixed them myself. I walked 4 blocks, chose 3 books, walked home. I stood outside the house for a moment. The house I refused to sign away. The house that held me through everything. I thought about Thomas making me memorize that number, just in case. I thought about a pen behind a radiator, a receipt in my sleeve, a nurse who didn't look away. I went inside, made tea, sat at the table, opened a book. My name is Margaret Hayes. I am 71 years old. I was afraid. I was silenced. I was underestimated, and I'm still here. Thomas knew I would be. He always did.